Big time fight coming up at lightweight. Everybody should be excited for this one. We have the Spartan Christos Giagos taking on Arman Tsarukyan. And there's so many different layers and reasons to get excited because both guys, very, very good grappling. Both guys have trained at Black House MMA in the past. But now, instead of being in California, they're both in Florida. For Arman Tsarukyan at American Top Team. For Christos Giagos at Sanford MMA, and it's got to be awkward for Giagos because in his last fight, he beat Sean Soriano, who's been one of the main guys at like Hard Knocks, Sanford MMA, list Black Zillions for the longest time. Soriano's been there forever. So it's got to be a little bit weird, but for Giagos, good training partners, the likes of Saul Rogers, he's pretty good on the ground. Jared Gordon, he's tricky on the ground, especially with his takedowns and his hands. And I could go on and on and on. For Tsarukyan, at American Top Team, my favorite fighter at 155 pounds, it's not like Poirier or, you know, a forever version of Jorge Masvidal, is Mateusz Gamrot. I absolutely love him. I think if you're training with him, getting ready for Giagos and other grapplers, he's the perfect guy. But when I look at this fight, it's reminiscent of the 1984 hard rock hit that's by one of Matt's favorite bands, Night Ranger. And it goes, Matt, you're motoring, but what's your price for fight? And I look at this fight that way because for Christos Giagos, the knock on him forever, and it was my knock on Billy Quarantillo until he knocked back on Instagram and went, these Fight Night Picks guys don't know jack, you know what. Giagos had bad cardio. Giagos would go out there, put in a great first round, and the second round he's done. In the third round, he's done. Second round's not that bad. But if you look at his fight against Carlton Maness, too, wins the first round handily, wins the second round decently, and in the third round, there's pockets where Carlton Maness, is he back in this one? In his last fight against Sean Soriano, he lost the first round, and then he gets a submission in the second round. So Giagos, a little bit of an about face there. Going to learn from the guys at Sanford MMA. From Tsarukyan, right from Jump Street. The guy looked amazing, even in a loss against Islam Makhachev. You look at his other fights in the UFC. He beat Olivier Aubin-Mercier. He beat Davi Hamos. He beat Matt Frivola. He beat him everywhere in that fight, too. Made him look silly, and Matt Frivola's a good grappler. So, Matt, I'm going to actually bring up the odds because I think they're a little wonky. Tsarukyan open to minus 300 favorite. He's minus 737 on best fight odds. Giagos open to plus 250. He's a plus 492. That's crazy.
It is, but let's just look a little bit closer because if you do look at just its surface value, then yes, those odds are crazy. And I guess most people who are betting are looking at this fight just to that level, but we're what you'd consider experts, Craig. We can look in a little bit deeper. The problem is that Arman Tsarukyan, stylistically, is an awful matchup for Christos Giagos. And Giagos is one of those guys who I think could have a fun fight with anybody in that like 13 to 20 range. The issue is that he needs offensive takedowns for him to be at his best. And this is a guy who's made massive improvements in his striking game. He used to really only be able to like wildly throw his arms in the air and throw a good body kick, and that was pretty much it. Now he can string together some good combinations. He throws with a lot of power. I won't say he has good power, but he puts a lot behind his shots when he does throw them, and that's almost why he has bad cardio as a result. Christos Giagos, when you look at his fights, it's not like he doesn't throw a lot of strikes. He's not somebody like a Kimbo Slice who just got tired in the third round at like 17 significant strikes. He has a very high output, but it's the fact that he's throwing everything behind all those shots. By the third round, it's really hard to throw 150 shots at 100% full speed. And the fact that he does need a lot of offensive takedowns to really accentuate his own striking and make his game look a lot better is a really big key in this fight because for Arman Tsarukyan, this is the guy who even Islam Makhachev had almost an impossible time taking down, and even when he did initiate a takedown attempt, it would just immediately result in a scramble. So I think stylistically, this is a really hard fight for Christos Giagos, although I can openly admit, Giagos has areas where he can win. Let's say he can defend all the takedowns, and this fight is just a striking fight. I think Giagos is probably the better striker, or at least the more consistent striker throughout 15 minutes, and it's to the point where I would probably favor Giagos to win 2 of the 3 rounds if this was contested on the feet. The issue is that Tsarukyan, A, doesn't give you a lot of space to strike, and B, doesn't just go for one takedown, gives up, and then creates space, and then will shoot in for another one. He's going to chain that double leg attempt into a single leg, and then put your leg halfway up to your chin, and then reap your other leg. Like, he just does a lot when he is in these clinch situations, and I think all of that's going to drain the gas tank of Giagos even worse.
For Giagos, crazy. I mean, 2 runs in the UFC. He makes his second time out. He loses to Charles Oliveira. He beats Mizito Hirota. He beats Damir Hadzovic. He loses to Jakar Close. He beats Carl Maness. He beats Sean Soriano. And that fight was almost 3 months ago. For Arman Tsarukyan, again, he beat Davi Hamosh about a year ago. 6 months ago, he beat Matt Frivola. That was a weird one because it was supposed to be Tsarukyan and who was it? Nasrat Haqparast. That was the fight we were going to get. Matt Frivola was going to get a fight. They ended up kind of putting them both together. It was just odd, but Tsarukyan, he did miss weight, came in at 157, Frivola accepted.
Well, that was the whole Ottman and Zaitar what's in the bag, wasn't it?
That was exactly that.
There we go.
It was just potatoes. But yeah, you look at this one, the odds, they're just silly as, what was it? What was his name? Larry Enticer. You silly? I'm still going to send it. So yeah, you look at this one, the odds are kind of wacky. You look at the Topology votes. Holy crap, 1,052 total votes. 93% Tsarukyan, 74% by decision. For the 7% that have Giagos, 51% have him to win by decision. I mean, yeah, for me, I look at Christos Giagos, a fun fight at 155 pounds, Lerone Murphy. I think that's a great fight. I'd love to see that fight. I don't necessarily like this fight because I think Arman Tsarukyan really wins.
Christos Giagos reminds me of a store brand RDA. And I mean that with a tremendous amount of respect. Because for RDA, for him to win a fight, he has to be the superior grappler. He's a good striker, but when he's winning, he's the one taking his opponent down. Now, when we all think of RDA losing, what is it? It's him losing to vastly superior wrestlers. Khabib Nurmagomedov, Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington. Guys who go out there and their specialty is wrestling. Giagos is very similar. If offensively he is able to get the takedown, then he can really out-grapple his opponents and make their life a nightmare on the mat. The issue is, I just don't think he'll be able to take down Tsarukyan, and I do think Tsarukyan's going to make his life really tough and go for a high volume of takedowns to the point where Tsarukyan, I don't think will win by submission or decision, but we're going to see a vastly worse version of Giagos by the end of the fight. Because this is what I mean.
He's not going to win by submission or decision?
Sorry, submission or a knockout. I don't think that he's going to get the finish, but it could be open. This could be one of those weird fights where, although Giagos is a good grappler, if fatigue is such a major factor in this fight and he is really tired, Tsarukyan might be able to lock up a submission in the third round.
For me, I've got Arman Tsarukyan. I've got him to win by decision in this one. Want to hear from you. Do you have the guy representing American Top Team or Sanford MMA's own? We've got a lot of fights on this card. 15 in total. Smith taking on Spann up at the top, so you're not going to want to miss that. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.